I want you to imagine it's 2019 and you're on vacation in Norway. You've rented out a beautiful cabin in the woods. It looks just like this, and you and your friends are going to spend a week there just relaxing and getting away from it all. But you can't help but notice that it's been raining every day of your vacation, and you remember there was a news story about some murders happening in this area. But you just kind of brushed it off as "this will never happen to me" stuff. And then one night you hear a knock at the door. Welcome to the worst vacation ever. Today we are discussing Norway's bloody cabin murders. If you want to stay up to date on all things creepy, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And don't forget to check out our new podcast available on various platforms. In August of 2017, 5 young adults headed to a secluded cabin in the woods outside of Oslo, Norway, for a week-long vacation. The group consisted of 2 couples, Marius Gonsen and his girlfriend Anne Reich, and their friends Philip Mantoven, Albin James Sennefeld and his girlfriend Gabriella Cespides. They rented the cabin for the entire week. It was in a secluded wooded area about an hour and a half outside of the city of Lillehammer. They were looking forward to the quiet, secluded surroundings and the opportunity to get away from the hustle and bustle of the city. But when they arrived, they noticed that it had been raining for days, and there was no sign of that changing anytime soon. They checked in with the local weather station and learned that there was a 100% chance of rain for the entire week. While the forecast called for nothing more than light rain, the group was stuck inside the cabin, not exactly what they had planned. While stuck inside, they got bored, so they decided to watch some movies. One movie they watched was The Covenant, a thriller about a lone soldier who has to fight off an entire battalion of enemies in Afghanistan. The group finished the movie late into the night, and after that they began playing a game of charades. At some point Maria started imitating someone crawling through the snow. Then he mimicked being shot and fell to the ground. The friends laughed at the skit and thought it was hilarious. Little did they know that it would foreshadow what was to come. At around 3 a.m., someone began knocking on the door. Maria assumed it was one of her friends playing a prank. When she opened the door, however, she was met with an empty set of stairs. No one was out there. She closed the door and went back to bed. Sometime later, she woke up to the sound of screams coming from outside. She got up to investigate. Her friend Albin was standing outside screaming, "Help! Help! They're killing me!" He was covered in blood from head to toe. His face was also covered in blood, but his eyes were missing. Terrified, Maria ran back into the cabin and locked the door. Then she and her boyfriend called the police and reported what had happened. The operator calmed them down and told them that help was on the way. In the meantime, they should keep themselves safe by locking the doors and staying quiet. When they hung up the phone, the screaming had stopped. When the police arrived at the scene, they found Albert lying dead on the porch in a pool of his own blood. His eyes were nowhere to be found. After discovering his body, the police went to work, trying to piece together what had happened. Officers interviewed Maria and her friends, who told them everything that we just talked about. But that was all they had to go on. There were no signs of forced entry, nothing appeared to be stolen, and they had no idea who could have attacked Albert. To make matters worse, cell service was spotty at best in the rural area. This meant that not only did they not have anyone to call for help, but even if they did, the person on the other end wouldn't be able to help them. Just as the police were beginning to leave the scene, one of the officers noticed something peculiar. There was another set of footprints leading away from the house. Whoever had attacked Albert had not only worn shoes, they were wearing boots. And those footprints matched the imprint of a specific type of military boot. That was odd because no one in the area was currently serving in the military, and neither did they know any veterans. As the investigation progressed, the police were able to collect more evidence. One of the officers found a tire track that matched the tread of the boots. In addition, they found a cigarette butt and a hat. Investigators sent these items to a lab to be examined. What they learned shocked them. The cigarette pack was an extremely rare brand that was not sold in Norway. The only place the cigarettes were sold was in a small town in Eastern Europe. To make matters worse, the tire tracks had also been seen in the Eastern European country. This led investigators to believe that whoever had killed Albert was likely a foreigner. Investigators didn't know where to start their search. They didn't have a motive for the crime, nor did they have any leads on a suspect. The case went cold for several months, until an officer named Frode S. Grime came across a piece of surveillance footage from a gas station that showed a car that looked similar to the one that the victims had rented. He shared this footage with his colleagues, and they began searching for the driver. About a week later, they found him. His name was Josef, appeared to be in his mid-20s, and he was living in a small town about an hour away. When the police questioned Yusuf, he denied knowing anything about the crime. He told them that he had been in the area working on a construction site. As the police were leaving, they noticed that Yusuf appeared to have a fresh wound on his leg. It looked like a burn. Yusuf told them that he had been injured at work. Despite Yusuf's claims, the police weren't convinced. The wound on his leg didn't look like a workplace injury. In fact, it looked an awful lot like a gunshot wound. On closer inspection, the police determined that Yusuf had recently cleaned the wound. Knowing that Yusuf was lying, the police arrested him and brought him in for questioning. As they questioned Yusuf, he began to break down. He confessed that he had been in the area and that he knew the victims. He had actually rented the cabin next door and had been watching the group for several days. One night, he saw the group playing charades and decided to have some fun. He grabbed a pair of boots and walked over to their cabin and began knocking on the door. He didn't expect anyone to answer, but when Maria opened the door, he decided to scare her by pretending to be a character from the movie they had watched earlier that night. After seeing the terror on her face, Yusuf knew that he had gone too far. He tried to apologize, but Maria screamed and slammed the door in his face. Yusuf panicked. He thought she was going to call the police and accuse him of trespassing. So he made a split-second decision. He pulled out his gun and fired several shots into the door. He heard screams and applause, but he didn't stick around to see what happened next. As the police were listening to this story, they couldn't help but feel angry. Yusuf's actions may not have been intentional, but he still had blood on his hands. They asked him why he had brought a gun to the cabin. Yusuf admitted that he had intended to use the gun to hunt deer. However, it was illegal to hunt without a license, so he had not done it. With the case now solved, the police felt a sense of relief. They had caught the man responsible for Albert's death, and justice would finally be served. But little did they know that this was just the beginning. Yusuf was charged with manslaughter, which carries a maximum sentence of 21 years in prison. But prosecutors argued that Yusuf had shown no remorse and had lied to the police, saying that he had been in the area working. Because of this, they wanted him to serve the maximum sentence. What do you think? Was this an accident, or did Yusuf plan to kill Albert? Why do you think he lied to the police? Let me know in the comments below, and thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and share it with a friend. I'll see you next time.